Welcome to the enchanting world of the Never Cross a Witch Bitch podcast. Prepare to be captivated as we embark on a thrilling journey into the realm of spirituality with our remarkable team of a distinctive energy mixture. Leading the way is Mitch Garlington, a gifted gay male witch, touring stage medium, and psychic tarot card reader. With a background in the competitive corporate world and experience as a Cher impersonator, Mitch brings a fresh and unique perspective to our discussions. Next, we have Lucy Locke, a former fundamentalist Christian missionary turned sex shop manager turned professional dog groomer turned psychic medium, trance channeler, and tarot card reader. Her incredible transformation into the spiritual world is truly inspiring. And last, but certainly not least, we have Carly Batten, a second-generation practicing pagan, intuitive oracle card reader, and spiritual mother to many. Carly brings a grounded approach and simple understanding to the complexities of spiritual living. Together, we form an unstoppable podcast as we delve into all things spiritual and the journey of life. Our mission is crystal clear: to spread the message that spirit embraces all and that each of us is on a spiritual path, whether we realize it or not. So buckle up and get ready for an exhilarating adventure with the Never Cross a Witch Bitch podcast. Please note that all ideas discussed and presented in this podcast are the personal opinions of the individual podcasters and do not necessarily reflect the views of each other or the viewers. Hi, y'all. It's us again from Never Cross a Witch Bitch podcast. We're on what episode now? Is it 15?
15.
15, yeah.
Yeah.
It's awesome. It's awesome. Yeah. And we keep on coming up with ideas. So this week we've are going to talk about a subject that could be a bit touchy for people, is being spiritually scammed.
Mm.
And
I like the way we said that together.
and spiritual scammers out there. We
AKA how not to be an arsehole.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't be a turd with your
Think of a
words,
good title for this one. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But we've noticed a lot of advertisements going up in the last little while of fear mongering, I guess you would use the word, making people scared of demons and this and that, and come in, we'll do this for you and that for you for a very large amount of money. And so, yeah, we want to talk about the different types of scams you can see out there. Let's just do it. So who wants to start us off? Yeah.
Go on, Mitch, dive in.
Oh, I love the way you chuck it to me. Well, it is, isn't it? Because like Lucy was saying, we've seen a lot of stuff recently out there, and obviously we're not going to name names or anything like that, although we could, but we're not going to. But it's almost like, it's. I think the thing is, because we're ethical in our approach and in our craft, when we sort of come across this kind of stuff, it really rattles us and gets us quite pissed off, and it sort of gets our heckles up, because it's everything that we're not about. It's that whole thing of always treat people how you want to be treated. That's your baseline of any spirituality, whether you're doing healing, whether you're doing mediumship, whether you're doing your trance. Always treat people with respect, always treat people how you want to be treated. And we are seeing a lot of adverts at the moment of fear mongering, or reasons where people have to keep giving their money and reinvesting in a person, and it's just a little bit gross, isn't it, really, to be honest. So it's icky. It's icky, and I think it's complicated because there's so many layers to it, but as sort of professionals, it just doesn't really sit well, so there's many types of scams out there. I mean, we were talking before about, like, I used to have a business page on Facebook before I turned it into a group, and I went through a stage where people were making multiple accounts of my business page and scamming people. So they'd be messaging people and saying, for £20 I'll tell you a loved one's coming in and they've got a message for you, give me this £20, blah blah blah,
pretending to be you,
pretending to be me. And a lot of people fell for this, and I think that's what really crushed me. It wasn't so much, it was the fact that they got scammed, because that was awful, but it was also this second wave of, could people really think I'd be capable of doing something like that? So you have the two frustrations. You have the sort of, the empathy and the sort of frustration that these people have been scammed in the first place, but you also have the frustration of, do people feel that little of me that they would think I would even be capable of doing that? So it's quite a weird crossover of energy. And I was getting people messaging me saying, I want my money back, or this was your fault, I want a free reading or whatever. And I was like, I'm really sorry that you chose to fall for that scam, but that was your actions. And I've had to be really clear on the boundaries of that. But now I have my Facebook group, which is a private group, and I set it up purely for that reason. So anything that goes in there, I have to physically approve it. And I get a lot of people still trying to scam, but it will flag up and I can delete it and remove that person so that it doesn't cause any problems for me. So that's one example. And genuine readers, they're not messaging people night and day saying, I've got a message from a loved one. That's not how it works. But people are so vulnerable. It's not that they're desperate, but they're so wishing and longing to just have that piece of validation that in those moments, people will do anything if it means that they could potentially hear from a loved one. They're not always thinking logically, and that's why people prey on the vulnerable. And this is the whole kind of annoyance of why people kind of often say that people are charlatans or this, that, and the other, because there are some people jumping off the bandwagon of good readers and trying to manipulate an already sort of fragile situation, isn't it, really?
Holy, you put it very well. Yeah. Go ahead, Carly.
You get I mean, we're talking about scammers and the things, and the upsetting thing from sort of our point of view is, I mean, you get, we were talking about earlier, you get dodgy builders, come in and charge you $2,000 for doing it, and then they don't turn up and finish the work. The thing is, in a spiritual line or a therapeutic line, you're not just dealing. Yeah, you don't expect it. You're also, it's not just the monetary thing and the inconvenience. So if a builder doesn't finish his job and he buggers off and doesn't come back, it's a monetary and it's an inconvenience. But it's with the spiritual thing, it's the emotional and the mental side of things as well. That's people, you're dealing with people in a very vulnerable state, or some, not everybody, but some are looking, like you say, are looking for answers. You get people that come along and take advantage of that and are then, you've got people in delicate situations. You've got people that may well be looking for a counsellor or looking for some form of answers. So you're then, it's not just a physical or monetary thing, it's an emotional and a mental thing as well. And that's a huge, big package. That's yeah, it's dangerous. It is very, very dangerous.
I would put it along the lines of rape. Okay, spiritual abuse, like being abused,
spiritual rape, isn't it, really?
Yeah, which has happened to me, is so elusive, so it's hard to pinpoint what's really going on inside of you when it's happened to you. So it can leave you very confused, very disorientated, very not knowing whose fault, where the fault lies. It's very elusive. Like I think that's the word to use, but it's just it's hard. It's one of the toughest ones to get over. And counselors are just starting to realize that there's such a category is called spiritual abuse. And it comes in many, many forms, many forms. And so like in our line of work, it could be someone that because perception is everything, right? These people that go around saying, I can get, like, okay, for instance, I'm just going to give you a hypothetical kind of, well, it's a true story of someone that I know didn't fall for the scam, but someone was constantly trying to scam them. And this person owns a bunch of properties and rents them out, right? And has someone come to the properties and does work on them. But this also person says that they are a clairvoyant or a medium and stuff like that. So every house they'd be like, oh, there's a spirit in here. And, and I could say that to anyone. Oh, Carly, I see a spirit behind you in your house, right? And for 200 quid, I can clear that spirit for you. And there's people that get that fear mongering of like, oh, if you don't clear it, this and this could happen, or your tenants that come into the houses could have problems and that will give you problems, all that kind of shit. And some people are strong enough or have the intuition and wherewithal to say, no, not for me, thanks. But there's some people, and it depends where you are in your walk of life, in the season of your life. That might be very, and that's what they're preying upon, is they'll get
Mm,
that one. It's a numbers game, you know, and they'll get that one that is needing those answers, is maybe feeling weird in their home.
mm,
And it could be, you know, and they've come to believe, you know, and then they just get into this torrent of this like cycle of, oh, we cleared that one, but there's another one that's showing itself here. And so we got to clear that, you know, and it just gets a bit dumb. And it's like, I don't know how to explain it. But it's not dumb to the person that's happening to. But we've had people come to us and say, like, I've been ripped off thousands of pounds because they've believed, and
Yeah.
then they get like swept into this, like it keeps going.
I literally had
But
this yesterday. Was it yesterday or at the weekend with a client? I'll tell it in a minute. But yeah, carry on.
yeah, and like for me, what's really comes about across strong, and people, please disagree with me if you disagree with me, okay? Because I'm just putting this as my personal belief, but it doesn't. I can't say it if it's true or not, but it's something that I don't believe spirits about causing fear.
mm,
I very, very rarely are you going to get possession or, you know, like what I mean, like, yeah, possession. Or another one is these, what do you call it, Mitch, where they um cling on you, or, and people will
Oh,
say, oh, it's
attachment, because spirits are
attachment.
attached.
attachment.
So like for me, okay, I hurt my neck when I was 7 years old. It's gonna go into it. And this was 1981. Okay, things back then weren't
81. I
as
wasn't
good.
even born. Sorry.
I know, I know. I could be your mother. No, I'd be 10 or 11. I'd only be 10 or 11 if I was your mom. Like, I
That would
don't.
just be
Anyway,
weird.
it would be weird. Anyway, yeah, very, very weird. I was still playing Barbies at 11. Anyway, and
So was I.
I hurt my neck, and I remember how I hurt it. But back then there wasn't like MRIs like there are now. Does that make sense? And stuff like that. So they couldn't figure out what was going on with my neck. So, make a long story short, for years, I didn't know exactly what was wrong with my neck. I just knew I had this stiff neck and I had to go
Mm,
through lots of different things. So, get me into the spiritual world. Everyone wants to heal the neck. You know what I'm saying? Everyone wants to heal the neck. You know how many things I've had said to me about my neck? It would, I've had that there's a demon sitting on my head. I've had that from 3 people. I can see a demon sitting on your head. Okay, thanks. You know, and back then I kind of, okay, let's pray it away. Let's pray it away. Nothing ever changed. Neck was still stiff. Then there was something like I was stubborn because it didn't work, you know? And so the blame is like laid on
You're
me.
doing it wrong, sort
they
of
don't
thing.
you.
Yeah, yeah, I'm not believing enough. Then I had it, believe this one or not, that I was orally raped when I was young, and that is why I have the stiff neck, and I don't remember it, and that God showed them that.
Oh, that is
Okay?
awful.
Oh, I've had loads, loads. I've had hundreds of people tell me what they think is wrong with my neck.
Mm,
Bring it on to 7 years ago. I had to go and to a new rheumatologist, and they decided to do a full like on me, and they're like, "You broke your neck." I'm like, "Yeah, I knew I did, but no one else would believe me, and no one else could
Mm.
find it." And they're like, "Yeah, it's there. It's there. It's all
mm,
calcified, but you broke your neck." You know, breaking your neck doesn't
Gosh.
mean you go paralyzed. Does that make sense? Like, as long as
mm,
it doesn't cut the nerve. But yeah, I broke my neck. And so, you know, but all those years, people put their assumptions,
They're fear mongerings
wanting
onto you.
mm,
their fear mongering onto me, and it had nothing to do with that. I physically broke my neck, and it's
mm,
something I actually really accept about myself now.
Mm.
I don't care if it's healed or not in this lifetime. I really don't.
mm,
It's just part of me. Does that make
Yeah.
sense? So,
And
and even
the
back
root
then,
side,
even back then, I
the
didn't care. Yeah, when I was in my teens, it wasn't the first and foremost thought in my head It's only when people bring it up that I'm like, oh yeah, my neck. I don't think about it moment to moment every day. It's just how I am, you know?
Mm,
And
mm,
so, but people will bring it up because it's a vulnerability,
Yeah.
right? And they see it as a vulnerability. And it's like, no, it's actually a strength for me. I think it brings out character in me and it makes me quirky and it makes me just who I am. And I'm
mm,
fine with that. But yeah, there's so many. And that was actually brought up under a spiritual, the oral rape one was brought under like a spiritual counselor I was seeing. And I was actually in a very vulnerable position on something else
mm,
that I was going to see them for. And then they brought this up that God was showing them, the spirit was showing them this about my life. And it actually made it so much more worse, the whole situation, because I was trying to deal with one thing and then they put more burdens on me,
Mm.
which made me more scared and made me feel more useless to spirit and made me feel more like I was no good in the spirit world. And so I ended up just collapsing
mm,
in a heap. And I really left the church then.
mm,
Yeah.
Dangerous,
And
isn't it? Really
yeah.
mm,
And
dangerous.
so, like, and I'm not saying it's just a church, but it's in our community too that I see
mm,
people say, oh, I see an attachment on you and I'll release that for
mm,
200 quid. Well, if I saw an attachment on someone, I would just
Take it
say a few
off.
prayers and take it all, help them get rid
mm,
of it because
mm.
I don't look at it as a money making
No.
thing.
It's like I had it with my client at the weekend. I'll quickly tell you the story if that's all right, because it kind of links
Yeah.
right into this. So she had some paranormal activity going on in her home, and it was quite aggressive paranormal activity. So she called in like the Ghostbusters crew, whoever they were, some paranormal group,
And I see
and they
nothing wrong with that because I know some ghost busting crews and
Yep.
you do
Yep.
too.
yeah, yeah. I mean,
And
I'm
they're
part.
the legit thing. They're the legit
Yeah,
thing. So I want to say to my two ghost busting girls, and I know you have two ghost busting girls, don't take offense to this because they are the
yeah,
legit and
exactly.
they'll clear
Yep.
it.
They
Yeah.
Yep.
are legit. They are legit. I mean, I've got two girls that I work alongside quite a lot with paranormal
Mm.
stuff, so we do it ourselves. So they did the clearing and everything else, and the paranormal activity stopped. Great, job done. But then this particular paranormal group, they messaged this woman, and she was an elderly lady living on her own, and she was like, oh, they said to her, right, you need a top up, you need a top up,
Mm.
which is going to be another like 250 quid. And she's like, well, there's been no paranormal activity. The house is calm. Everything feels good. I don't feel like I need that. And they're like, no, you need a top up. And I think she bought one round of it and nothing changed because everything was cool already. And then there was a couple more months passed and they're like, you need another top up. And then she clicked that, okay, they're now scamming me. So they
Yeah.
were legitimate to a point that, that there was some realness to it, but they then sort of saw her as easy money. And it had
Yeah.
gone from being ethical to unethical. And you see that quite a lot, where a part of it or a piece of it is the real deal, but then they move the goalpost or they take it into a space because they can see someone is easy money or easy pickings, and it's just
Mm,
so sad, isn't it? Really.
mm,
Oh,
And
it's
in the end,
horrible. Ugh.
she sort of
mm.
told them to fuck off because she realised that she was being scammed. But it's just such a
No.
shame,
And
really.
and to her that then makes us all look a bit like a
Look
con
bad,
man to
yeah,
her.
Mm,
Yeah.
mm,
Where
yeah,
she goes, do I want to do that when spirit's so loving? And that's the purpose of our job. Does that
mm,
mm,
make sense? Is that it's that intimacy with spirit and it takes all that away. It just makes it gross
mm,
and
mm,
icky.
yeah,
And yes, is it all right to make a living being working in the spiritual realm? Totally. Totally.
mm,
But there comes a time where if you're not in alignment, does that make sense? And like we were talking about this, Carly, earlier, you said, some people start out really good
mm,
and then it just turns generic. Does that make sense? They've lost the flow. They've
mhm,
lost something has gone misaligned, but they keep on trying to do the job and they're taking
mm,
people's money and they're just giving generic trash reads,
mm, mm,
And for a lot of people, that they don't have the strength or they're I don't know if that's the word. They're too embarrassed to say, you know what? That was way off.
mm,
And I don't really want to pay you the 30, 35, 40, 60 quid, whatever it is owed
Mm.
for that.
I also think it's down to, we're talking about, you know, losing, you know, healers or readers or therapists or any of us losing our stuff. I do notice people step down. We've got mutual friends that we know that have got to a certain point and gone, something's not right, I'm stepping away. And then they've come back, and they've come back, you know,
Stronger.
knowing where they are, stronger. They're completely different. We've seen that happen. I just, I, I know it's very difficult for some, but I wish on a stallholder, reader, signpost point of view, I wish that other people, if they notice or they feel there's something not right, because they must be aware that something isn't right if they're on our professional level, if you know, well, not level, do you know what I mean? That sounded really up my own arse. I didn't mean it like that. But if they're working on a professional level and they're working from whoever they work for, spirit, the universe, whoever they're working with, angels, etc., what keeps them going? Why do they, they must know there's something not fitting anymore. Why don't they just hold their hands up and go, do you know what? This isn't right. I'm going to step off and I'm going to stop. And then I'm
Because
either
they've
going to
been
come
getting
back.
away with it, haven't they? They've been getting
Yeah.
away with the bullshit,
Yeah.
essentially.
Ego and money get in the way.
Is
Yeah.
is it a case of it's the only thing they've ever known and it's still bringing an income? Is it a case of they don't want to, or they're scared to it, or is it a case that they won't admit that things aren't as they should be? It's,
I think
what
the
is it? Is it a
servant has
combination of
changed.
everything?
The servant has changed. So whereas the servant may have been spirit, they actually realize that they can do a little bit of bullshittery and get paid XYZ, and it becomes easy for them, So why are they going to give that up when it's bringing in quick, easy revenue,
Well,
essentially?
yeah, and some people are just easy targets, and that's really sad to say. But if you're looking, like, if I put my eyes into a scamming mode, does that make sense? If I put
Mm.
myself as like, okay, I'm going to pretend I'm a scammer. For instance, I was at one fair and I knew the person that was doing some reads was a charlatan. You know what I'm saying? Like, just is not the real McCoy at all. Does it for money, and that's it. And this woman came out, and I was having my vape, and she was like, "Oh my God, I just had the best read from the." And I was like, "Oh, really?" Because I was not feeling this person at all at the fair. I was like, "Okay," and she's like, "Oh yeah, the person told me that I right away they saw me walking by and said spirit had something to say to me, which is that, you know, ploy
Catch.
in the catch,
Mm.
and then which I would never do. I give people autonomy. If you want to read from me, you come to me. I'm not going to offer it to you.
Yeah.
And I really believe that. That's why Mitch is offended that people would take those 20-pound offers off of that people are faking him, because Mitch wouldn't offer someone a read. You come,
Mm.
it's autonomy. It's your
Yeah,
Mm,
choice to
people
come
come
to
to
me.
me. Yeah.
Yeah.
mm,
Yeah. If you feel drawn, then A-okay, I'll do a read for you. But if you don't feel drawn, then we're not the right combo, do you
Right
know?
people. Yeah,
But
yeah.
then there's people out there that are like, come on, step right up, step right up. I gotta, like, and you're just like, it's gross. It's like really gross. It's like being in like the Elephant Man times, you're like, you're just like, wow. And and so I'd seen this person do it over and over again, and they were like raking in the dough that day. And like, I, I'm, I'm not jealous about the money. That's not what it is. It's the energy behind the money. Does
Ethics.
that make
Yeah.
sense? That I don't
mm,
like. Um,
mm.
and so this person was saying outside, I just had they um said they had a message from spirit, and I said, "Oh yeah." She said, they told me that I have high blood pressure. And lo and behold, I have well, her nose was out to here and it was red. Like she looked like she'd been drinking for like 30
Oh, so you could
years straight.
see
You
she
could
had her.
see had high
Yeah.
blood pressure from a mile away. But there's people, and I was just like, I didn't want to say to her, you totally got caught, you know?
Yeah.
And she's like,
Yeah.
I do have high blood pressure. The person told me I had a miscarriage. Well, 64% of women have had miscarriages in their life, so they're playing a numbers game.
Mm.
Mm.
And that's very, very intimate stuff. But I heard that person
Mm,
say that to almost every woman that sat at their table because I was sitting next to them.
mm,
And like, to me, it's just like, it's grim.
mm,
It's grim, you know?
mm.
And, you
I mean,
know,
you brought up one thing there, sort of, as we're sat here thinking, thinking there's going to be people listening or watching. Hello, if you're watching, going, well, how do you go about finding people that are genuine? And I think that is a prime example. Great bit of advice is don't go to the roll up here, don't go to one of them. um you know so don't go to the ones that are touting. um Go to the person you're drawn to. I mean, that's one thing. you know I get asked, especially sort of, running the fairs, or actually, I mean, I've been asked when I've been behind the stall. Somebody's knows the stall or know M, and they'll come over and go, well, who do you think I should go to? If I'm, sometimes I do recommendations, but I'll go on the person's energy, because what I might say, I'll go to, this person might not fit going to Lucy, and Lucy might be free, but she might be better going to another reader. Um, but I always say, I recommend da, 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 but see who you feel drawn to. Don't go with who I recommend, because my interpretation of that person's energy who's asked me could not quite fit right. So I think that's an amazing bit of advice. So if anyone's sat there going, oh, how do we find, what's the difference? Go to somebody you're drawn to. Don't go to the first person that goes, come and sit with me, I see somebody with you. Especially if you're in a vulnerable position and you're looking for answers, be really strong enough to, if it doesn't feel right, or you feel awkward to that person telling you to sit down, I see great Uncle Fred sat behind you, or I see your father with you. If you're not 100% happy, don't sit down, don't agree, take a step back, say, oh, I'm okay for a minute. You might feel drawn back to that person, but don't do it on first instinct. Think
mm.
about it. Really think about it.
Well, because
I
they're
think
And
that's
also,
playing on that guilt too of you
mm,
saying no, no, no. Because most people struggle with that. Does that make
mm,
sense? And so they're playing on that too, and it's just wrong. It's just
mm,
wrong. Like I just it just icky all over.
is. What are you
Go
going to
ahead,
say, Mitch?
Mitch.
I was just going to say the other permission to speak. The other thing was, when you're going for like a reading like that and everything, ask or be aware of what kind of reading you're wanting. Because I was talking to Lucy about this a while ago. Like, so I had a situation. I ran one of my witches markets, and I had somebody come to me saying they had a reading with a said person, and they thought it was really bad. They thought it was really awful. Now I know that that reader is amazing and that they're solid. And I was like, well, what actually, like, did you want from that person? And then I sort of, they said that they wanted a mediumistic reading, and it turned out that they sat down at an astrologer's table. And I was like, but did you tell or say to the reader what you were actually wanting, or did they say to you? Because the reader does have to take some accountability. It's a two-way
Mm,
thing, isn't it? And they were like, well, no, I just felt connected to that particular person. But if you're wanting a mediumistic reading and you're going to say an astrologer, you're not going to get that. Does that make the astrologer
Mm-hmm.
a bad reader? Of course not. They can only do what their line of energy is. The same if you're wanting a rune reading, you don't go to a tarot reader necessarily if you're wanting the
Mm.
runes. Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah,
sometimes there's this,
mm,
people almost sometimes put people down very quick without actually doing the research or understanding a bit more of what actually is available here.
like
mm.
when people
Well, it's
sit
a
down in front of me, right away I say to them, I do not do divination.
Mm.
mm,
So they
Right
know what they're
away.
going to get.
So they
Yeah.
know, I say, I do not do divination. It's just not part of my giftings, but my giftings are the here and now and what's going on inside you and to work through that. And
mm,
Mm.
I haven't had anyone say, oh, no, I don't want that. They're like, okay,
mm,
but I'm a personal, like you, Mitch, I'm a person, and I know you are the same, Carly. I just personally believe just get it all on the table right now,
mm,
right? So if
Mm.
mm,
let's say I'm advertising something and I know, so like in the future I'm planning to do workshops, right? This is part of my business plan I'm coming out with. But these workshops are to get people kind of to see what I do as a living. Does that make sense? And so for me, I'm like going to say right at the beginning, I'm saying it right now. Like it's a taster of what I do. So
Mm.
Mm.
that if you want and feel, you'll come out feeling better no matter what out of the workshop. So it's a win-win situation. But if you like what I do and feel drawn to it, then you can invest more. Does that make sense? But
Mm.
I
Yeah,
wouldn't
but they're
do the
choosing to make the
workshop
investment. Yeah.
100%. Does that make
Mm.
sense? It's the autonomy, but they'll come out of the workshop, but like right at the beginning of the workshop, because a person was saying, oh, at the end of the workshop, you tell them, oh, if they need more, they can come to you. And I'm like, no, I'm telling them right at the beginning of the workshop because I don't want anyone feeling like they've been scammed or
Mm.
played with at
Mm.
the end
Mm.
of the workshop because I can't stand that kind of stuff. I really like people just to lay it on the table so I have my choice of yeah, that aligns with me or no, oh, I'll do this
Mm.
part, but no, not that part. I'm not going to be spending extra money on you right now because
Mm.
I'm broke or whatever. So then there's not that awkwardness, that guilt,
Mm.
nothing.
Mm.
Mm.
It's just there laid on the table. And yeah, we all want community. It is a natural
Mm.
part of being a human. And that's where it gets mucky. And that's where people play on our vulnerabilities because it's actually not they see it as a vulnerability, but it's actually a human need to be in
Mm.
community. And
Mm.
it's the way we are designed as humans to be in community and to be with of like-minded people. And so it
Mm.
really angers me when I see people pull crap um, or have underhandedness in their dealings. Like I joined this circle a while ago and it was an international circle, right? And so I was invited by someone to come and join it and I thought, wow, and it was beautiful. Oh, the women, we were crying and supporting each other and holding each other through the internet, but it was absolutely beautiful. And I went about 7 or 8 times where I got invested. Does that make sense? And it was free.
Mm.
And the woman that ran the circle, she was absolutely beautiful. And then all of a sudden, I went to the circle, and that woman wasn't there anymore. And it was this other woman. And it was a whole new circle. And I actually got caught up in a pyramid scheme where they were trying to hook us up
Ah,
into.
okay.
And then the truth came out that that woman was running too many free circles. And now we had to pay to be at the circle. And it was like an entry level fee. And then if we got, and I was absolutely devastated because my whole emotions were built on these women that I'd spent
Mm.
2 months with now. And we connected
Mm.
on Facebook as Facebook friends. And then I found out that majority of the women, except for two of us, were already in the pyramid scheme. They were just acting like they were people
Gosh.
like us in the circle. And I was absolutely fucking devastated. Like Colin will tell you, I was I felt like so, because it was my first time venturing out to go into community since the church.
Mm.
And I couldn't, uh, that was probably 4 years before I met all you lot that I just went
Mm.
and just refused to. I just thought, no, people are just shit, because it reaffirmed what I had before.
Mm.
Yeah. Different
And
people, but same behavior,
same
isn't it?
pattern
Same behavior.
and same
Mm.
pattern. So then I had to look at what is going on with me too, because it's not the first time. It was a different circumstance, but it's not the first time something similar had happened. And there is that need for community, but I'm not using my intuition when I'm in that because there were red flags going up, but I was totally
Mm.
ignoring them. Does that make
Mm.
sense? Because I was so desperate for that community and I felt like it's been too long. It can't be that. It can't be. I'm just being paranoid. Does that make sense? And so I'm
Yeah.
just going back to old habits of being paranoid and blah, 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 because I've been told my whole life, you're paranoid, you're paranoid. When actually it was my intuition every time and it wasn't paranoia, you know? And again, it was that I didn't listen to my intuition
Mm.
Mm.
because it was there. But my need for community was stronger which isn't a bad need, but it wasn't the right community.
It's
Mm.
interesting, isn't it?
Mm.
And I think also as you become more, you know, um, you find more peace within, you do maybe want that community, but not maybe to the same depths as you once did, perhaps.
100%. I am so picky now about my community. And that's actually because I'm so at peace with myself. I don't want anyone disrupting that peace.
Yeah,
Mm.
exactly. Like in the
Uh,
beginning stages when I was in Circle, I was like, oh my God, I'm being seen by spirit. All these people are so friendly, they all love me. And some of them were genuine, but there's a big chunk that became snakes in the grass, or
mm,
didn't like the fact that I was evolving quicker than others and we'd all gone in at the same level at the same time and XYZ. Circles can be amazing, but they can also really divide in terms of not just spiritual behavior, but just how you are as a person, if you're
Mm.
decent or not.
yeah.
It really brings out the truth of everything almost.
Mm.
Well, they're
Mm.
like mirrors, aren't they?
Mm. And
Yeah.
that's a
Um,
very human looking at it, from sort of a psychological, human, pagan, down to earth thing. That's a very tribal thing. You get that in human communities. You get that, split. You get
Mm.
that where the true colours are shown. I mean, I'm very lucky, we were talking about this earlier. I've never actually personally been in the position where I've been scammed on a spiritual vulnerabilities. I've never sat on circle. Um, I've been keen to sit, I'm admitting it. A lot of people probably sit and think, oh yeah, she's sat on circle. That's an assumption that people make of me, but I haven't because I've I've been very lucky. I've learned to trust my intuition. It's been a struggle on my own, but I have learned to trust my intuition. I've um, found myself, and then obviously finding you guys again, as the store has helped me, my background has helped me massively. So I've been very lucky. Um, but growing up in the horsey world on a yard full of women, as we all know, and you see the split on the on a yard full of
mhm.
women, you get the bitchiness, you get the niceness, you get those that think they're better than others, you get those that have more authority and would take advantage over others that haven't got that so much confidence with themselves. And that's a human tribal thing, isn't it? And you get that no matter wherever you are, whether you're spiritual, whether or not it's in the church, wherever it's going to be. And it's such a shame because as we see it now, it shouldn't be like that. Everybody should be trusted. But I think the key to it is trusting that intuition, is not being afraid to say no, this doesn't feel right, or I don't feel comfortable with this, or doing a bit of research. If you're in a position where you're going to go and have you want some spiritual counseling or some coaching or mentoring, do a bit of research, talk to people, go and see what prices other people are paying for certain
Definitely.
services,
Look at their credentials.
look at their credentials. Well,
We were talking about this. Yeah. Like, especially like tarot reading, like, Mitch is a certified tarot reader. I got certified through Tabby, for tarot reading. Doesn't mean anything. I've never had to show my, like, and stuff like that. And, it just, but I'm very, very uncomfortable when it comes to people running programs that involve digging into the psyche. Does that
mm,
make sense? And stuff like that, because you're I think you have to have my personal belief is you have to have a background of having a counseling degree or a
mm,
psychology degree
mm,
or something like that. Um, and there is people offering stuff out there that's a bit scary in my eyes, like regression therapy, um, dealing with the inner child. Unless you have like a psychology background and have been, you could be bringing up stuff that you aren't able to help that person work through.
mm,
Traumas
mm,
that they're not able, that are very complex and multi-layered, and the person could end up leaving you worse off than when they came. And that's not part of our ethics,
Mm.
you know? And so when I see these kind of programs run by people and I go, what is their credentials? What are their credentials? Because it would it you're playing with. I've had people try to regress me into that woman that said I was orally raped or whatever. Was said she was a spiritual counselor. She had nothing at all. She just thought she had, like, it came out afterwards that she had nothing at all in her background. She tried to regress me into a child, putting memories into my head and all this kind of stuff, and it it screwed. And then when I couldn't cope with it, she dumped me and told me you're not worth working for, because she couldn't take the responsibility of the can of worms that she opened up.
Yeah.
You know,
And
by
that's a message we've had recently with a sort of mutual client, and they got blocked in the end by this mentor that took thousands from them. The person got out of their depth, and then they were made to feel like they were the inconvenience, they were the problem, they were put to block. That person didn't want to carry it forward because they were out of their depth, and that person now is stuck somewhere in limbo, not knowing really what is spiritually theirs, what isn't. They've got to go right back to basics, and they're in that
it's
shutdown like we talked
awful.
about earlier.
It can lead
Yeah.
to mental health problems. It can lead to bad anxiety because, you're dealing with something you can't see or touch. Does that make sense? So
Mm.
when people start fooling around with that and playing games with people with that, you're really, really playing Russian roulette, like it's dangerous and it's not fair on the client. And so, like we've heard about tarot reads, you were saying, like, you've had tarot reads, I've had tarot reads where people have said so and so is going to pass away, and you're like, they're perfectly fit and fine. And
Yeah.
it really can put you into, well, what are they seeing that I'm not seeing? And they're saying they can see into the future. And it oh, you got the Grim Reaper. Like, I came to Mitch saying that that happened to me, and it felt like I had the Grim Reaper on my shoulders.
Mm.
And only way I could come to conclusion was, well, one day we all pass away.
Mm.
And so all I could do is love that person
Mm.
and work through whatever baggage I have with that person inside of me, and love them and love them and love them till the time goes. But they're still not ill. They're
Mm.
fine.
Mm.
And it was supposed to be happening about now in their timeline. And, like, I can't, but I have good friends like you guys that I could go to, and you guys would say, nope, crap, let's deal with this. And I had a couple of other friends that helped build me up. But otherwise, if someone's doesn't have that support
Mm.
system,
Yeah, then that roots into their mind, doesn't it?
Mm. Mm.
really bad,
It's like
it makes me feel so, like, because I know what it feels like, and I would never want anyone to have that anxiety of worrying what spirit's going to do, because spirit is all about love.
Yeah, I think I'd said this before in another podcast that I went through a stage when I lived in Martog. There was a reader in a nearby place, and she was saying exactly this. I was getting reams of clients coming to me that had a reading with her saying their parents were going to die or somebody very close to them. Like you're saying, they were waiting for the Grim Reaper, and she was encouraging them to go back regularly, to have regular top ups, to sort of see the situation, to assess the situation. And again, it's this scamming. It's a quick buck, by playing on people's fear, because one of the worst fears I think most of us carry is the loss of a loved one, or that time that we know someone's going to pass over to spirit, particularly if they are fit and healthy and there's no logical reason why they should be. And and I'd be doing cards for people, like, to sort of see the situation, and they'd be getting things like the star, the world, like you got your best life ahead of you. Death was nowhere to be featured, and it was like, well, from a tarot perspective, it's looking pretty cool,
Yeah, I don't think spirit shows us that anyway. Like the
Right.
Bible, I'm going to go back to the Bible. But there is it says no one except for the universe,
The
God
creator.
himself, the
Mm.
creator knows when your time is up.
Mm.
And you know, maybe you do inside of you about your own timing. You feel like, oh, it's coming. Does that make sense or whatever? And you've come to some sort of peace with that, and you're stepping into your higher self. I've heard people say that they know
Mm.
they're coming, and they do. Does that make sense? Or they're already whatever. But there's peace around it. And that's what I want to say is that it has to resonate with you.
Yeah.
It can't, if it doesn't resonate with you, if it doesn't hit you deep in your soul, then disregard it.
Mm.
That's what I say. Disregard it. It doesn't matter. If something's meant to happen, spirit will show you over and over and over again. They're patient and they're persistent and they know how we are, but they do not fearmonger. I've had to step into that in my mental health journey with spirit, that they're not about fear.
Mm.
They are about compassion and loving kindness. And will they show us when we're doing something that's not good for us? Yes, definitely, but not with fear. It will resonate and make sense to you. Does that make sense? And you know it already.
Mm.
That's what spirit's about, is showing you that recognition that you already have the intuition. You know it already. So like when people leave reads and go, I didn't feel anything new. It's like, well, then good. Because if you don't know it,
You're where
then
you
it could
should
be
be.
made up. Yeah. It actually should resonate, and it's showing spirit showing you how intimately they know you.
Yeah,
And
I always think it's that thing of you should always, whether it's a reading or a healing or a workshop or whatever, you should always come away feeling better than when you were
yeah,
first found. If you don't get that on some level, or if you come away questioning or feeling a bit insecure, these are the alarm bells, aren't they, really?
yeah. And any of these people should not be creating dependency. So if you're
Mm,
going to someone and they're creating that dependency, that you feel dependent on them as a mentor, as an authoritarian, some sort of figure in your life that you get all the answers from, you're in danger zone.
yeah,
Danger zone, to be manipulated, to be taken advantage of. People, if they're a mentor, if they're um, counseling you or doing anything like that spiritually, it should be for you, your freedom, and you standing up on your own to live your own best life.
Mm. They should
And
be
there are
giving
just,
you the tools for you
yeah,
to be able to take
yeah,
away and
but
work with. Absolutely.
there should be no creation of dependence. If there's a creation
No.
of dependence that you feel you need that person in your life, then there's something you need to look at, because
Mm.
that's not what healing's about, and that's not what spirit's about.
Also,
I,
a good mentor or a reader should be able to pick up from that person coming to them if there's an attachment been made. And they should be able to say diplomatically, you don't need this. I mean, I've had it. Sorry, Mitch, cut you off. I've had it when people
fine,
have
I'm
come
used
to
to it.
this. I know it's all right.
I
Settle
need my
in,
bell. Need my
sit in the
bell so I can
corner,
talk.
sit in the corner, be quiet. But, but I mean, just very briefly, let Mitch talk. But I mean, I've had people come to my stall and go, oh, I need this, oh, I need that, because they've made that attachment and they feel that they need it. And I've had to say, I could have quite easily, but I'm not that type of person. That's not what I stand for. That's not what we're here for. But if I was, I could have quite easily gone, you need blah 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 blah
Mhm.
blah 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 blah, and I could have quite easily made that
Make the
person
rules.
spend 50, 60 quid on my stall. Lovely, thank you very much, job done. But I
If
didn't.
people
I
are
actually,
making rules too that you have to follow
yeah,
in order to be spiritual, or in order to do this, that's wrong too. Spirituality is your own journey.
yeah.
Mm,
Does that make sense? We're all here to just hold each other's hands and walk each other home.
Mm,
But
yeah.
spirituality is your own. That Mitch says that, and another person that I like says that we're here to walk home. So Mitch, I'm going to reference that to you, because you've said that many times, and it's a beautiful saying. But otherwise, if they're creating rules that you have to do this and that, and you have to clear this, and you have to be like this in order to get spiritual,
yeah. I mean,
If
guidance, talk
it's
about your
your
guidance and
guidance is all right.
experience. your
But I
own
hear
personal
these videos come
experiences.
up and I'm just like, no, no. If you need guided meditation to help you meditate, use guided meditation. Just
Mm.
because someone can supposedly sit there for hours, you don't know what's going on in their brain. They might be thinking of their shopping list, but they're pretending to meditate. We don't know. We don't
That's
know.
me. I do that.
It's
I do that.
bullshit. But
I sit there
my
and
how
think of my
my
shopping.
body, no one's going to make me feel less than. Does that make
Yeah.
sense? Because I have a wandering brain. My brain is so active. I know this about myself. I Parts of me really like my brain, but when it comes to meditation, a guided meditation helps me a lot. A lot. And it's a game changer for me. So just because I need guided meditation to help me calm my brain down and get into my interior being doesn't make me less than spiritual than the person that can
Mm,
sit there and maybe bullshit that they're meditating, because you have to look at the fruits of their life. What is their life producing?
mm.
You know? And I just can't stand stuff like that. I've been to, sorry, Mitch, I interrupted you again.
No, it's fine.
I'm very
I
passionate
did it.
about
You
this.
did.
I said to you guys, I'm so tired, and now I'm just like,
You're on.
I am. I'm like the little stiff necks are bobbing around. I really, really, the spiritual journey is so intimate and so freeing because I was bogged down for years and years because my inner being, since I was a child, has wanted to be connected with spirit. And almost everything in my life has tried to disconnect me from that. And people saw my vulnerabilities of wanting to be saw it as a vulnerability, me wanting to be so connected to spirit. And when I figured out there aren't any rules, I can do what resonates with me as long as I'm not hurting myself or anyone else.
Yeah.
Mm.
I can connect with spirit any fucking way I want to. There are no rules. Now, have I figured out ways that work for me that I would, if someone came to me and said I need guidance? Yes, but I'm not going to claim that that will work for them. So like
Mm.
people that could, like you see these life coaches, they're always these good-looking muscular men. You know what I'm saying? Or these women that look like they live in Beverly Hills with the perfect hair and the perfect teeth. And like, if you follow me, you'll be like me. And I, 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 I just can't go for that. You know? Oh, sit in the lotus position. Well, if I sat in the lotus position, you'd hear every fucking bone in my body crack, okay? And you wouldn't be able to get me up off the floor, right? So if that position makes you better energetically, good for you, because my knees would be up around my ears like this. It would be awful. It would be awful. I'd be in pain. You know, I wouldn't be able to meditate because I'd be in pain. So for me, sitting in my chair bespokely made for me to hold my nice, gorgeous, fat body. Because all these guys are super slim and you have to be working out 6 hours a day to be spiritual or whatever. No, you don't. You can have a McDonald's
Mm.
and meditate right afterwards. Because
I do that
nothing
quite a lot.
holds us from, oh, well, same with me. Nothing holds us from the love of God. Nothing separates us from the love of the universe. Nothing.
Mm.
I
What were you going to
firmly will
say,
stand
Mitch,
in that.
before we
There you go,
Oh,
Mitch.
I can't
Sorry, I'll get
do
off
it.
my soapbox.
Yeah, what I was
before
going
we
to say, I know what I was
both
going to
into
say. I remember
go
now. What it was I've had it before, like the other end of the spectrum, sort of, where like people have come for me and they've been quite needy,
Clingy.
and I've had to
Yeah.
sort of nip it in the bud, and I've had to say, okay, you're now wanting this too regularly. I'm going to have to sort of call time and say, no, you've had what I can give you. That's enough. But if I was a scammer, it would be so easy to keep the sessions going. I could keep
Mm,
spinning a yarn. I could have done it
Mm-hmm.
so many times with so many people. I'd be a millionaire by now. I could have easily done that
mm,
and got away with it. But you
mm,
don't, because Spirit sees, Spirit knows, and Spirit entrusts you to be the ambassador on this physical earth. That's how I see the connection with Spirit.
mm,
Spirit are entrusting me to represent them. They are calling the shots. They are running the show.
mm,
So Yeah, but if I'd have wanted to, if I'd have wanted to be an arsehole, I could have easily got away with it so many times. And sometimes people are really shocked and they actually get a little bit hostile when you say, I can no longer work with you. But it's the professional thing, it's the kindest thing, and it's the realist thing to be. Oh, there we go. It's being real enough to say, this is now actually something that has gone on the realms of what I can offer you or what I'm comfortable to deliver to you.
And that's
So you
integrity,
sometimes get the
Mitch.
flip side.
And
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
been an
100%.
honest professional. That's been an
Yeah.
honest professional, genuine, a genuine reader, a genuine
Yeah.
and a genuine person. I mean, you're a genuine person, Mitch, as well. So you wouldn't put anybody in a position that you wouldn't want to be in. Do you know what I mean? So
But I
if you
could. There
you
is that little
could,
devil in me
oh
that's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
I could,
I think
but
we
I'm
all
trying.
have that temptation.
Oh
Temptation is
yeah,
not wrong.
that's
People
just
think
human.
temptation is
That's a
wrong,
human
but
thing.
it's being human. It's whether you fall for that temptation. Does that make
Yeah.
sense? Just because you
It's
have the
whether or
thought
not
of
that
saying,
greed.
I could take this person,
Mm.
just because you have that thought doesn't mean the want is there.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just the thought. Does that make sense? Like, let's talk about this thing. The saying, money is the root of all evil.
Mm.
That is actually not the saying.
Okay.
The saying is the love of money is the root of all evil. Money in itself is not an evil concept. It's not an evil thing. It's the
Mm.
love of it. The lust, actually, the word is the lust of
And
money.
you see that so blatantly in some of the spiritual setting, not everywhere, but in some areas, you just see it, don't you?
Well, yeah,
We
you
all.
would say, yeah, you look at these life coaches and it's like 1,400 quid. What?
Mm.
Mm.
What are you getting for that? I mean, like, a person that I was reading for recently had spent about 6 or 7 thousand and they had nothing to show for it. And I was like, present to me what you've had for that sort of money. And they couldn't. They just had nothing they could show. And it's
Yeah.
just disgusting. It's really disgusting. It just pisses me off. What's the phrase? It boils my piss.
Gets under my tits. That's what I say. It gets right under my tits. Like a bad bra. You don't know that, Mitch, but like, oh, maybe you do from your drag days,
Oh,
but
I
like a
do from
underwear.
my
From your
Cher
share
days.
days, your share
Underwear.
days.
That's why you don't
It's
see
right
me
under
wearing
there.
yeah, don't see me wearing that's why my boobs look like two eggs sitting in a little whatever.
Do you know
But anyway,
everybody
I
now?
don't wear
Everyone
underwire
now
bras because
watching
they
the
just
YouTube is looking at your boobs now. You
yeah,
realise this,
exactly.
don't you?
They're not. Yeah, it's comfort. Comfort is everything to me now. When I used to see old people and I'm like, oh, why are they wearing that? I get it. I get it. It's comfortable. It's
Yeah.
comfortable. It doesn't hurt when you bend over. It doesn't,
No.
dig in. It doesn't, you don't trip and you're thinking like now I wear flat old lady shoes because I like just like anyway, we're way off. But I've interrupted you again, Mitch, and I apologize. My passion has gotten a bit out of hand tonight.
It's fine. You're all good. You're all good. I was going to say, what was I going to say? Oh, I keep forgetting. I was going to say, like, have you ever seen a situation that you've had to intervene with, or do you feel like spirit will eventually bring that person to task or those people to task, maybe?
I did intervene once on my own behalf, and um, yeah, where I got involved in this, like, where I was going to be trained to be like a life coach kind of thing, and I was paying money, and it was just basically we were marketing this guy, and it turned out to be like a pyramid type scheme,
Mm.
and I when it clicked in, I was like, oh, this isn't right. And like it was turning culty. Does that make sense? Where it was all anyway. I said to him, this is a pyramid scheme, and I've never had someone effing and blind me so much in my life. Holy crap. This guy that
Wow.
was like, Mr. You know, I'm all nothing but God in human form, and nothing can phase me, nothing can trigger me. He flipping lost it on me. If he was he threw his computer across the room. Like he really
Oh,
Oh,
lost it.
gosh.
Yeah. There's laptop. Yeah. Um,
So was this in like a Zoom meeting? You called him out
Yeah, it
on
was a
that?
Zoom meeting, and I called him out in front of everyone else. I was like, "This is a pyramid scheme," and he lost it.
Oh gosh, how many
Lost it.
people were kind of on that?
Probably about 6 of us at that time that we were
Okay,
regularly meeting and paying money to hit. Like it, I just, uh, I've had so much happen to me. That's why I'm so passionate about it.
yeah,
Because I just really like how I became a missionary. It was a human slavery type thing. I think about it now, modern day slavery. It, I paid them money and I moved to across the world to another country, a third world country, lived there, paid them money. Okay. They told me there was a bunch of people coming from all over the world to be there. I was 17 at the time this happened. They told me that there was going to be a bunch of people come from all over the world there, and I was so excited to be a part of this. When I got there, I was 17 in a third world country by myself for the first time. People say, "What about your parents?" I would have done it anyway if my parents said no. Does that make sense? Like they
Yeah.
knew that I was so gung ho about this. Um, so it's not my parents' fault at all. They actually gave me the money to help that I had enough to live on, which that's a whole other story when I got there. But anyway, um, and I got there and I was like, "Oh, where is everyone?" I was the only student.
okay.
So they said, "Oh, we need to pray to God." And already, but I didn't, I knew they had lied to me and I didn't confront them on their lie. And like to call home was like $80 every time I called home. This was like 1993, 94. So there was no email, there was no nothing, right? So I had no, and the nearest phone was like 5 miles away. I was in the middle of nowhere and living in a grass hut, like in the middle of nowhere. And they said, "Oh, we need to pray and fast and blah, 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 that these students come." Well, these people came, and I don't know how they got these people, but then I found out that we were living on the money that I had given only. No one
Oh
else had
gosh,
paid to be in this school. So we quickly ran out of food. We quickly ran out of toilet paper. We quickly ran out of everything. And I was flippant. And then so it turned into, well, we need to fast because they had no food. So they turned it into a spiritual thing, right? So I'm living in this hot country, fasting. Oh my God, I wanted to die. I wanted to die. And so anxiety came in. It was gross. It was one of the worst. And we were building huts for people, and I was doing all this work, and it was modern day slavery to bring money.
that's awful.
And they do
Oh,
that all over the world. They still do it. People
Mm.
fall for it. Do you know what I'm
Cashing
saying?
in on you wanting an experience, on
Yeah, and
you
wanted me to
wanting
help
to,
help out.
yeah,
Yeah.
wanting how to help. Yeah.
there was a Netflix series on something very similar to that recently, wasn't there? I don't know if you guys saw it. I can't remember what it's called, but yeah, I watched a very, very similar Netflix thing, and the guy's raking in like millions off of other people's, stuff, and he's still adamant that it's not a pyramid scheme or it's not dodgy. I don't know
Yeah.
how he justifies it, but yeah, it's quite
Well, yeah.
shocking.
Like I was living in this hut. Yeah, I was living in this hut, and the woman that ran the program, I finally somehow we ended up at her house, and it's a long story, and I'm planning to write a book one day in my life, but we ended up at her house, and in that country they didn't have fridges in the like the normal villages didn't have fridges or anything. She had a fridge, she had a TV, she had a VCR. She was sitting in the lap of luxury while we're out there living in a grass
Slaving
hut,
away.
and I paid her. Yeah.
Gosh, it's
And it
awful, isn't
wasn't
it?
until years later that I realized that I had been scammed.
Mm.
I realized I was a modern day slave.
And also at 17, that's such an impressionable age as well, isn't it, really?
I was
Mm.
wanting to be a missionary so bad. That was like I wanted to be the next Mother Teresa. That's what I wanted to be. Yeah.
God, it's so interesting how our lives are so different. At 17, I'd moved to London and I was doing my own drag show. Like, God, I would have been such a sinner in your life in that time period. You really,
Oh, that country was the first time I ever met someone in drag. I'd
oh,
never met
okay.
someone in drag, and so when I saw them in drag, and it was really wild because I think about it, they're not exposed to anything. Does that make sense? They're not exposed to
Mm,
anything. And that's actually, they usually have one or two in each one of their villages that live the life of the opposite sex.
Mm.
And they're not exposed to society, like social stuff that we are, TV or
mm,
anything.
So there's
So
no
it's almost like
influence.
it's no influence. So it's almost
Mm,
innate or natural. Does that make sense?
mm,
Yeah. And you know what? I'll be honest with you. I knew I wasn't supposed to like them because of my upbringing and because of what the
mm.
church said, but I really did. Do you know what I'm
Mm.
saying? I wanted to be their best buddy. That's how I felt inside. I thought
Yeah.
they're what a cool person to stand up like in a third world country where, these people are probably very badly abused at times. Does that make sense? Like we get it in Western society. So imagine
Mm,
what it can be like there. And I just think, wow, how strong an individual in
mm,
themselves to stand and be authentically who they think they are and feel that they are.
mm,
Definitely, definitely. That's quite powerful, isn't it? Yeah.
mm.
Sorry, I'm not like crying at your thing. My eye keeps watering.
Oh, no, you're crying. You're crying, Mitch.
I
Come
keep
on.
It's
wiping my
emotional. It's
tears.
emotional, Mitch.
It's emotional. It is emotional. Yeah, it's just crazy, isn't it? How like people will just see an opportunity and they will just find a way in.
Mm. I mean, like we say, it happens in every single wherever
It does. It
there's
happens in
someone,
everything.
yeah, wherever
Mm.
there's someone who is in some form of power stature or an element there, and there's always some below, you're always going to have that situation. And I think us being in the spiritual realm, the reason why we get so gnarly about it is the fact that um we don't think, we don't think it should be like that. It shouldn't be like that. It's not fair. And I think that's why we as us three, and I know there's a lot more people out there that will agree with us, and there's some that definitely won't agree with us. But that's why we're here. This is what it's all about, isn't it? Um,
Hmm.
and I think we feel in this, as my other half calls it, yogurt weaving. And I look at the world through rose tinted glasses, according to him. But we do, we expect everybody to treat us all the same. We're all on the same level. No one's bigger or better than anyone else. And I think what gets us is where people are in that position. They feel that they're in their position, and then these people that need help are then taken advantage of. And I think that's what ruffles our feathers, isn't it? And it isn't fair. I wish everybody in the spiritual community could and were on the same level, but it's not gonna be like that, because that's a human beings taking advantage and making money out of people that are in those positions. Like your missionary, you're being a missionary, and bit dodgy builders, dodgy gardeners, it's the dodgy mechanics. It's all there, isn't it? I think the thing is just as us as spiritual people, if you're in a vulnerable position, is just being aware and being a bit streetwise, and getting the research, um going with your gut, trusting that gut instinct. I know that's really, really hard when you're in a vulnerable position. You're
Hmm.
vulnerable, you're trying to find a way out, you're trying to find a solution to what is going on with you physically, mentally, emotionally. So when your gut instinct kicks in and goes, this doesn't feel right, it feels like I'm being taken advantage of, having that strength to go, no, it isn't right, and stepping away, or even trusting, like you say, Lucy, listening to those red flags. It's really, really difficult because you're self-doubting. You're self-doubting. That's why you're there. That's why you're seeking help. That's why you're looking for this help and looking for these signposts. But just trust it. If you go, oh, I'm not sure, go with it. Just please go with it, because
Yeah.
you just, or take a step back if you feel someone's pressuring you to have a follow-up appointment, or come and sit with them for a reading, or you need another reading next month. You shouldn't need a reading every single month. Think about it. Just take a step back. If you're not sure, take a step back, think about it, and actually turn around. If you don't want to really say no, you can say, I'll get in touch with you. Let me have a think about it, and I'll get in touch with you, and do it that way. Take the ball into your own court, if you know what I mean, and serve it back. it's just, it's hard, isn't it?
And I think one of the things is maybe asking how long they've been actually doing their practice for. Because one thing that I will say pisses me off, I've seen people that are fresh out of the uterus and then they're straight off on their path doing XYZ. I mean, I've seen it a lot where I've had people that have been students of mine at one time and they've been ethical with their work, and then there's been emerging somewhere, something's happened. And I've seen it with some of my students where they're now in a stage of this like pyramid scheme, and it's like, not good, not good, and you don't want to intervene, you don't want to kind of, it's not my business. So it's like you have to stay in your lane, but there's this awareness of like, this really doesn't sit ethically well with me, but I'm staying in my lane. They will expose themselves eventually. It's very hard when you've seen like others that have not been in the field for that long doing this. I struggle quite a lot with that.
I mean, everybody has to start somewhere, but I think you have to have that. I think you have to have some years behind you. I agree with you, Mitch. I think you have to have some years behind you, or some experiences and a bit more knowledge before you start, because a lot changes. Well, we know, I've been traveling my spiritual path for 20 plus years, to get to where, I feel as a person. Nothing to do with barbed wire, blow barbed wire out, me as a person, what I know is true for me. It's taken me 20 plus years to get to where I feel comfortable. And that's a long old time. And it's only now do I feel comfortable talking about it and being really sure of what I'm saying, sat with you guys on a podcast. I would never have done this. I would never have done this.
Well, you've even blossomed
ago.
in the last 15 weeks that we've been doing this, Carly, because you were shitting yourself. You were.
Well, it's quite a big thing to stand with you two.
Yeah. I mean, no, it's not that. No, but it was like, look where you're sitting, Carly. You'd rather be in the background doing stuff than out front. Do you know what I'm saying? But your calling is to be out front.
I mean, I stand on
in the broom cupboard.
Yeah, exactly. Hide in the broom cupboard. It looks like I'm in at the minute. Yeah, but I mean, it does look like a broom cupboard. Ed the Duck could come over my shoulder in a minute. If those are old enough to know Ed the Duck. I mean, the thing is okay, I stand on my stall and to talk what I'm talking. I think again, it's having confidence in myself to say, well, this is my opinion. This is what I believe in. Sometimes just sit there and think, am I going to be on the same level as other people? So even I have doubts. You still have doubts. You still have that. Well, we've spoken about ego and all that, in our past podcasts. And I think it takes a lot of time to be standing steady and know where you really are. And I think you need a bit more time from that, rather than, like you say, Mitch, coming out of it, going into college study, and then 2 years down the line, 3 years down the line, going out and you're offering life coaching and stuff like that, and and blah blah, because things are going to change. I just think people need a bit more under the belt. I mean, I find this, to refer back to the horses, I find this in the horse community, the equine community. I mean, I was going to go and study and do my horse exams and my BHS AI and become a teacher and things like that. At the time that I was doing it, I'm the same age as Lucy. So, further education was an option. It's not an option now. You have to do it. You have to go on and go to college when you're 16. When we were at school, we'd had the choice of going to college. So I was going to go to college at 16. I was going to come out with my AI. I would have come out with my AI at the age of 18, 19. And I could have then gone into teaching, and I could have gone into a college course with my, not necessarily as much horse experience as I had, because I had quite a lot of horse experience. I've been riding since I was 5, going in at 16. What's that? Where are we? That's 10, 11 years of horse riding experience and owning my own horses. So I had the solid experience. But you had a lot of people that had only been riding for 4 or 5 years, but because they had the tutorial school education, they got the grades for the club, for the school, for the courses, but they
Sort of
didn't
fast track
necessarily.
them through a little bit
Yeah,
almost.
so they didn't necessarily have the equine experience, but they would have come out the same age as me, 18, 19, with their AI and go straight into teaching. But I've got more equine experience and more on the ground knowledge than what they've got, but they could teach the same. And unfortunately, in this life, experience is the key to it. You know, I could stand there in a school and watch someone and go, this isn't right, that isn't right, what are you doing? Your horse is doing this because you're digging his seat bones in his back. Whereas someone who hadn't seen 11 years of horse experience before wouldn't know what the hell's going on. They might sit there and go, well, I don't know why the horse is going around with his nose in the air, and can't see it. It's the experience, isn't it? It's getting those bits under your belt, getting those years under your belt, and living a bit before you get into it, passing on, because then you've got experience, you've experienced things, you've got more knowledge, and you can offer a better package. Oh, see, I'm getting like Lucy.
I thought Lucy had froze for a minute then. Like she just
No,
didn't
no, I
move.
was listening. That's my pensive, like, people. Yeah, I look at myself sometimes in the video and I'm like, but that's actually my concentration. I'm really absorbing what the person's saying. So
I was
please
like,
Oh,
don't
that's
shit,
shoot
is
good.
the
me.
screen
If
froze or
people see,
what?
yeah, if
I
people
thought
see
she
me
was
and I'm
cross.
really still and I'm like looking
Thought she
like,
was
I don't know
cross.
how to explain it, but my pensive look, I call it. It's actually me really just absorbing what is
Oh,
being
that's
said
good.
and
I thought I was
feeling
waiting for you to
feeling
look
into my
pissed
body
off.
what I'm feeling. No, not at all, not at all. Um, yeah, it's like this week. I'm going to put myself out there again. I'm going to be advertising my new business. And people might,
Ooh.
ooh, and
Can
people
I
might
do can
think
I do
like,
a plug? Can I do a plug? Lucy's doing workshops at the March Fair. Ooh.
but, and mine is based on my counseling degree, which I've wanted to work with for a long time, and it's taken me years to get the nerve up that I could do it. Does that make sense? And that I have, and like you said, Carly, having enough under my belt. So this therapy that I've come up with has been in the works for 25 years, really, because it's my healing journey plus my counseling put together into like a 6 week or 6 session thing to kind of lay a foundation of healing to start to build on, if that makes sense. Looking at different things inside of us and radically self-accepting yourself radically right now where you are with whatever's going on in your life, you know? And and there's a part of me that, like I was talking to Mitch, I'm so scared to advertise. I'm scared that I'm going to be looked at as like a scammer, which I'm not. Does that make sense? But then I'm also scared of people, like you said, that think, oh wow, that model is really cool. That like model that she's using is really cool, and starting to like piggyback off that and take it and make their own. Like Mitch had someone where he was teaching ruins, and then 2 weeks later they started opening up that they were teaching ruins. And that happens a lot in our community. A lot.
Mm.
And
Mm.
it's soul destroying and it's scamming.
Mm.
Yeah. But what
Mm.
did I say to you? You also have to know the mechanics. You know the mechanics of how your course has been designed, to the same way that I know the mechanics of how my rune workshop has been designed. So yes, they can copy it, but it won't have the same magic. It won't have the same deliverance because
Yeah.
it's your thing. It's come from
Mm.
your
Mm.
essence. Just to let you
You
know,
said
guys,
you
we're nearly on the witching hour.
Oh, were we? But you said ooh, like that. But you said you've told me that about the fairs as well, haven't you? We've had this conversation about certain fairs and certain things that have gone on, and you sat there and gone, well, they don't know the mechanics behind organising the fairs. And do you know
Yeah.
what? I said that I've had that conversation with you guys. I've had that conversation with them, my mum-in-law, etc., etc. And we've found a couple of times with things on the stall, we've done things and then they've appeared in other places. And my dad actually, Grandad of Bardware, turned around and said, well, he said, whilst it's frustrating and bloody annoying, he said, take it as a compliment because you're giving people are obviously looking, and you're creating an idea, and you're obviously quite an influence. He said, so take it as a positive thing, which is lovely, but it's also very hard to go, well, because you've got this,
I take it as a
you know.
disrespect. I do.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, I do.
I turn it around
take
the other way, you see.
I
I
know.
go, well,
I'm like
if you want to copy me.
I've struggled with that one. I look at it though as someone almost. I guess it's looking at it the same way as a compliment, as someone is trying to take a little, light their candle with your flame,
Mm,
you know, and they have the stuff inside of them to have their own candle going,
yeah,
you know.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's disheartening though, you know. It's
Oh,
disheartening. I
yeah.
haven't even advertised yet, and I'm already sitting in the bad end of it. No,
No,
I'm gonna go out there with gung ho. So be prepared, people. Be prepared.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, get out there,
absolutely.
be fabulous, and just show people what your offering is, and yeah, just own it for what it is, isn't it? Really, it's
Mm.
owning
Yeah,
it.
it's my
You are
baby.
enough. Yeah,
Yeah.
you
And
are enough.
if you want a taster, if you want a taster of what lovely Lucy's doing, can I say? Am I allowed to say?
Yes.
As lovely Lucy offered her services. So the March Fair in Yatton Kennel Hall, 23rd, 22nd, 23rd, Lucy's offered to come and do taster workshops each day, the Saturday and the Sunday, of what Lucy's going to be offering. So there'll be more details coming up. So if you guys listening want to come along and see what Lucy's got to offer, blooming brilliant, time to come and see her.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Carly.
Awesome.
Well, should
You're
we
very
leave it at
welcome.
that? This was I've had a couple of
It's a
other
good one.
passionate shows, but this one really got my going, you guys. Sorry.
Yeah, I feel like you've got a lot of stuff off your chest
My
now.
face is like red.
Way.
But I think even though we've joked and we've been quite serious in parts, it's because we care. It's like we
Yeah.
don't want people, decent people, to
100%.
get hurt. Yeah, we just don't
Exactly.
want.
Yeah. And it's
It
got
breaks
nothing
my
to
heart,
do.
actually.
Yeah.
That's
It's
why it angers me. I don't want to see people feel
mm,
like how I personally know the
mm,
feeling of being embarrassed, ashamed,
mm,
confused,
Mm.
thinking something about me that they saw in me that made them want to scam me. Oh, it's gross.
yeah.
It's
And the
gross.
thing
Yeah.
is we've had the conversation. It's not, some people might turn around and say, oh, you could sound a little bit jealous, the fact that somebody's making more money. It's got nothing to do with that. It's not about the fact that somebody is making more money. It's a genuine from the heart. We just don't want to see that people in a vulnerable position are taken taken for a ride, really, to be fair.
Yeah.
Yeah,
um and it's, if somebody, being funny, whatever, if they're in there, if somebody's making lots of money, then and they've got the balls to be able to ask the money, then whatever, that's up to them. Spirit will sort them out. The universe will kick them up the arse, pull the rug from under their feet. Whatever they have to do, they will do it. It's just making everybody who listens to the podcast, or anybody else who they get passed on to, just, we do care. That's why we do what we do, and that's why we're not millionaires. It's because
Well, I have something to say about that. There are people that are very spiritual and very rich, and it's okay.
line me up, baby. I'm ready.
It's okay. It's okay because they're running an ethical. Does that make sense?
okay, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Aligned, and they've gotten in alignment, and it's just worked out in their lifetime. In this
Yeah.
lifetime, that they've been able to do really well. It doesn't mean they're a scammer.
No,
If they've
absolutely.
got lots,
Yeah.
there's some great people like Kyle Gray who have tons of decks out. I enjoy listening to him talk. He's also a bit of eye candy. And I know he's gay. But anyway, there's like Michelle Knight that's
Oh, I
on
love Michelle Knight.
Instagram.
Yeah,
She's a
But they're all
character.
very grounded, aren't they? And they're
Yeah,
all still very from where they come from. There's nothing anything else, if you know what I mean. They're
yeah.
still
yeah.
offering
Colette,
what they come
Colette,
from.
Yeah, Colette Baron-Reed would be another one that I would think is probably a pretty cool person. Alana Fairchild, who makes a load of decks and meditations and stuff like that. I've seen her live on things. She is like really, really super cool. And they're loaded. Do you know what I'm saying? They've done well for themselves. They've marketed themselves well. They've got the gifting to do all that. And the more money they made, the better they can, tighten things up, come out with better products and all that kind of stuff for us, for all of us, Does that make them bad because they have money? Not at all. Does it make them a scammer? Not at all.
No.
But you have to go with your gut. Does that make sense? And that's what the spiritual journey is all about, is that intuition with yourself. And spirit,
Awesome, you guys.
Cool in the gang. Yeah. I'm gonna be like, no, I won't. I'm actually hyped up now. Everyone's like, I'll be like up till 2:00 in the morning.
Your poor husband. He'll be thinking, we're going to.
Sorry. Yeah, we're doing this one at nighttime. We usually do them in the around noon. We're all like just kind of. Well, Carly's been up since like 4:00 in the morning on her pony.
Yeah, it's past my bedtime.
And Mitch has probably done about 4 reads, and then there's me just like, let's do a podcast this morning.
Oh dear.
All right. Well, let's say goodbye. Lots of love and light. Don't get scammed. From Lucy.
Thanks for listening, guys, from Mitch.
See you all soon. Bye.
Bye for now.